Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Arif Chandoo, entrepreneur, Dakar of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, sportsman, father of three, alhamdulillah, and also recently you ran the marathon.
Alaikum salam, Brother Masood. Thank you for inviting me onto the Progeny Podcast.
Many viewers saw you last month on social media carrying the flag of Imam Hussain and doing the marathon. By the way, the furthest I've run, I think, is 5 kilometers. The marathon's 42 kilometers,
Yeah,
correct?
that's right.
So, what inspired you to do the marathon? And not only do the marathon, but have the flag of Imam Hussain with you?
You know, since I was young, I always considered the marathon as one of the greatest physical challenges that are out there. That together with climbing Mount Everest or some of the top peaks in the world, I've seen people cycle the whole of the United States. And I was a kid that loved challenges. Somebody would always, challenge me and I would take up that challenge. And, we've come out the pandemic. Islamically, I've turned 50 now. I'm not going to, in the English calendar, I'm very close to 50. And I thought, you know what? I can't leave this any longer. I've always wanted to do it. I've thought about it. And I was thinking, you know what? Now I'm approaching what they call the sunset years, whereas people want to take it easy. My daughter's 18, going to start uni. My son's finishing his GCSEs. And I thought, many people will be thinking, you know what? You've done the hard work. Take it easy. And I was like, that's not you, Arif. Your best work is still ahead of you. You still got so much to give. And so I needed something to reverse that psychology, that psychology that was creeping into my mind that time to take it easy. My son was saying to me, Dad, in 5 years' time, senior citizens at Stanmore, they accept membership at 55. So I'm thinking, you know what? I'll be sitting at the back on one of those chairs in 5 years' time. So I think, you know what? This can't happen to me. So I said, Arif, this is the time to go for that, to sign up for this challenge and basically do the toughest physical challenge that I've ever taken on. And for me, my life is about the Ahlul Bayt. You know what? If I am going to train for 6 months, if I am going to dedicate so much hours, blood, sweat, tears, because running 42 kilometers is not a joke. People think, when they think about it, it scares them. People have died running marathons, and this year when we ran it, somebody died in the marathon.
Wow.
It's people have heart attacks. All kinds of anxieties go through their mind. So for me, that flag was about doing something for a cause that's greater than yourself. And I'm thinking, you know what? I remember yourself, you're a speaker, you recite Muharram Majalis, and as do I. And I always try and look back at the tragedy of Karbala and, what the Ahlul Bayt went through. And there was this one incident, Sayyid bin Abdullah al-Hanafi, you might remember him, companion of Imam Hussain. He was one of them who stood in front of Imam and took the arrows on his chest when he was praying. Yeah. But the incident that struck me about him is that on the night of Ashura, when Imam switched off the tents and asked everybody to go and, take the darkness of the night and escape. And then, nobody left. He switched the tents back on. He saw that they were all there. And one of the guys who came forward to pledge the allegiance once again to Imam Hussain was Sayyid. And he said, "Oh, Imam," and I'm just paraphrasing, he said, "if I was killed and I was cut into pieces and scattered across the desert, and this was repeated 7 times, I would not stop sacrificing my life for you, because how can I, and this is the very powerful, how can I, you don't get 2 chances at death. I only have 1 chance of dying in this world. How can I give up the best chance of sacrificing my life?" For him, he knew he had only one way to leave this world. And I thought to myself, if I have a chance of dying in this marathon, if there is a risk to my health, why not dedicate it to a cause that's much bigger than myself? Dedicate it for the love of Imam Hussain. These words of Sayyid kept going back in my mind. And I thought, you know what? If I do it, I will give myself a pat on the back. Arif, you've done the marathon. Well done. My family for a couple of months will say, well done. But if I do it for Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, now, it's for a cause that's much bigger. It's for something that will stay for me, will stay with me forever. And of course, at the same time, by including the Ahl al-Bayt, it gives you energy. It inspires you.
How does it feel running with a flag? I mean, is it heavy? Do you need permission, by the way? Did you need permission to
I thought I might need permission, but I didn't. I know it was people. Some people ran with costumes.
I've seen people with costumes.
Costumes. No, the only guys. Nobody ran with the flag, and in fact, there's a good reason why, because the wind resistance on the flag creates a drag, and when
Makes
the
it
bag.
difficult.
So I was, I was running with this. I had a backpack. I stuck a flag on. It was extra. I had my phone for recording with a power bank and drinks at the back. It was extra 5 kilos I was carrying. I weighed, but that wasn't the hard bit. The hard bit was the wind resistance, the drag on when you're running the flag actually pulls you backwards. So it was a lot harder, and it's probably a good reason.
Obviously, the London Marathon.
The London Marathon.
Where does the London Marathon take place?
The London Marathon takes place in central London. So basically, they close the roads of central London for a day, 8 hours. Basically, if you don't finish in 8 hours, basically there's a sweeper van that comes and picks up the last few people who can't finish it because they need to reopen the roads. But so the flag. My wife said to you, Arif, did you carry the flag? She said to me, or did the flag carry you? And when she said that to me, I said, Subhanallah. I said, when you run with this flag, at times the run breaks you. You're exhausted. Your legs are aching. You want to give up. And there's a whole backstory, inshallah, we'll come to about, the physical state I was in, because I ran the London Marathon just 2 weeks after running from Najaf to Karbala. And that is 80 kilometers.
Wow.
So it was equivalent of 2 marathons. So I had an injury, an ankle injury. And at the point I wanted to give up, my legs were hurting. And then I thought to myself, you are Alamdar, Arif. You are carrying the flag of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And that thought immediately, when I wanted to walk, when I wanted to stop, it said, no. It says, you have to finish. There was maybe a few 100,000 people on the day who had come to spectate, to watch their loved ones. There was 50,000 runners. This flag was blowing in the wind. Look, beautiful, tough. And, if you're a serious runner, you want to hit a time, you won't run with this. If you want to do tabligh and you want that message, the flag in the wind was shining, was flying high. Everybody was looking at it. Runners would ask me, what are you running for?
You have the flag as well.
I have the flag here, and should I take it out now?
Yeah, why not? So we see
This is the same flag that I ran with. I've kept it. When every time I remember what I did and what I achieved, I run. It was an Arabic flag. It said, obviously it says Ya Hussein on it. But I thought to myself, Arabic, obviously I'm in an English audience. So my daughter wrote in English with white marker, Hussein is hope at the bottom, and a website, whoishussein.org, so that whoever saw it, and on the run, I had there were a lot of Shia out there. I was surprised how many came to spectate. People would cry out labbaik ya Hussein. So the Arabic appealed today. And when I was running, people, the English people thought I was Hussein. Some of them would call me Hussein. I had my name Arif printed on my t-shirt as well. By the way, I'm wearing my marathon finishers t-shirt. I thought, just to inspire me, it says, finish the marathon. Finish the marathon. But I wore a t-shirt with my name on it, and people were, asking me questions. Why are you running with the flag? Who is Hussein? And, the feeling, just 40% of my motivation and my energy came from running with the flag. So my wife said, what? I think the flag, rather than you carried the flag, the flag carried you. And I think, there's something about a flag. A flag is an identity. Countries have it. People take it to football matches. It says something about who they are, where they're from. But when you're a flag bearer, you also want to, it's more than, when you think about Alamdar, Abul Fadl al-Abbas, or those who carried, important flags, they want to hold themselves up to a certain standard. They want to say that, I'm representing somebody with my flag, Imam Hussain, who was, he represented the pinnacle of mankind. He was such a great personality. By holding this flag and associating myself with him, I want to try and hold myself up to the same standards that he held himself up to fight for the same causes that he fought for, to take out the same message, that you begin to associate yourself. This flag is like this magnet. I was surprised, what it does to a person when he carries the flag. You might think, I'm just running with a flag, but psychologically, there's something that's running in your mind that says, now it's more than about you, Arif. You're representing that person who you have on the flag. You're telling the world about him. So you carry yourself in a different way. You talk in a different way. You want to hold yourself up to a different standard. Subhanallah, it's a great power.
You're preparing yourself. This is all mental preparation for the run.
Yeah.
And again, I think that line your wife says about the flag carrying you is really important. Maybe you didn't think of it at the time when you were running, but I'm sure in the back of your mind, like you said, you're representing something, so you gotta continue and not give up. But how do you physically prepare? How many months of training did you do? Like for example, during COVID.
Yeah.
You couldn't go gym.
No.
If you remember, during the lockdown, what I started doing, I started running.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, around the area where I live, and I would do 5 kilometers.
Yeah.
That from the after I finished 3 kilometers, I'm dead. So just that last 2 kilometers is the hardest part, and 5 kilometers, I used to come back like it's rained on me, even though there was no rain. I'm sweating, I'm tired, I'm like, and that's only 5.
Yeah.
How do you prepare yourself for 42 kilometers of, physically?
There is a methodology.
And you had the ankle injury.
Yeah, I had ankle injury. So, during lockdown, if you remember, all over TV and media, there was something about couch to 5K, because people were on their couch all day.
Yeah.
They were working from home. They were watching television on their computer, and they were trying to get people to just, get some physical exercise by running. And I also started my running journey, literally.
That's when you started.
And I also started, feeling what it feels like to run, because that was the only exercise we could get. We couldn't play football. We couldn't go into indoor gyms. We couldn't go into leisure centers. I love badminton. There was, you couldn't play badminton for a long time. But, there was a book I was reading by Napoleon Hill. It's a motivational book. And he has a quote in there which, it resonates Islamically. And he says that if you can conceive it and you can believe it, you can achieve it. Now, for me, my story is like out of this world, because in Ramadan, about 4 months after I made the mind up, I wanted to, the year before, by the way, just the backstory to the marathon, I completed the half marathon for Hajj Hussain as a charity 1 year. And then, in my mind, I was like, mashallah, I've gone from 0 to 5 to 21K. Should I stop running? It's a big achievement. I could either have stopped or I could go to 42, which is the full marathon. I was at that middle point. And I said, Arif, you've come a long way. Now, I died after 21K. It was so hard. And in my mind, I was like, 42K, 2 of these, can you do it, Arif? Or you go back to 0 if you stop running. And in my mind, I said, no, I'm going to go the whole way. So a group of us who did that said we're going to sign up for the London Marathon next year. But come Ramadan, I was playing badminton and running. Now both are heavy on the legs. I fractured. No, I didn't fracture, but I twisted my knee really badly. The whole of Ramadan, I was praying on a chair. All my friends had signed up for the London Marathon. 5 months to go. This is like peak training time, because when you're training for the London Marathon, you're talking about 42 kilometers, right? So you've got to literally run 42 kilometers and more every single week. That means going out running, 10 kilometers or more 4 times a week. I wasn't doing it. I was on a chair, but as they say, when the tide is high, sail your ship. And I tell you what I mean. I said these 12 guys had signed up. And I'm like, it's never going to be easier to run the marathon because there's 12 other brothers who've signed up, all out there to motivate each other. If you had to do it alone, running is a lonely sport. You don't have motivation. Now we had 12 guys. I said, you know what? They're all running. This year, the marathon is on October. Every year it's been in April, but April is Ramadan. How can you run? I never get another chance. Because of COVID, they moved it to October. That was the last year, this October, where it was going to be. So I said, I have to run. So then I read this book with this quote: if you can conceive it and believe it, you can achieve it. So I had a knee injury. Every day what I would do, I would meditate in the morning and evening. I would see myself running the London Marathon. I would see myself in my kit running. I would think about running the marathon. I would see myself getting the medal. Wallah, the doctors at the time told me, Arif, this knee could take 3 months to heal. But because of this meditation practice, I believe that my knee healed within 4 weeks. So I'll tell you what happened. I started this practice of meditation, means actually visualizing myself running the London Marathon as a healing. Then I started as a mantra. You know, in Islam, you get all these du'as to recite all the time because it enhances faith. Why? Even what this guy was saying, to inculcate this belief that you can run, write the word I will run the marathon for a particular cause, write it down and recite it to yourself morning and evening. So I started, visualizing, and I started saying to myself, Arif, you can run this particular marathon. And then on Laylatul Qadr, just because I wanted to do it, there's a hadith for Imam says, if you want to achieve something great in your life, on the night of Laylatul Qadr, make a powerful intention on that night with a pure niyyah, and start that work on the night of Laylatul. Our scholars say this is a hadith. So we got to the 23rd night. I said, my leg is still injured. I've started this meditation practice. I said to myself, I'm going to take out a video. We have a running WhatsApp group, 160 members, Stanmore Jaffrey's. I posted a video about the power of intention and how me, Arif, I'm going to make an intention on the Laylatul Qadr that I could run the London Marathon. Now I put it out there. I still couldn't run. 160 people got this video. Arif said he's going to run the London Marathon. Those who saw me praying on the chair were thinking, you know what? I've made a commitment.
Yeah.
I've made a commitment and I'm going to be held accountable. People are now like, this guy's gone. He's talked about the power of commitment, little lecture. How is he going to do it? Wallah, I made that niyyah on Laylatul Qadr. On the day of Hajj, day of Arafah, I had a feeling in me, a powerful feeling, says, Arif, your knee is healed. Your knee is healed. Sign up for the London Marathon. You're ready to go on Arafah day. On Eid, the Eid that followed, I signed up with a charity because you can't run the London Marathon. Either you get lucky in a lottery, you sign up for a lottery, or you have to sign up for a charity and run for a charity. I signed up for a charity and I announced to the other groups, I'm joining you, brothers. I'm ready. How long left to go? Only 10 weeks. They've been training for 6 months. I had 10 weeks to prepare for the London Marathon. I haven't done any running now for like 2-3 months. So there was a lot of videos about how to prepare, what to prepare. I said to myself, I came up with my own psychology. I said, I've got 42 kilometers to do in a day, in a few hours. I said, I'll start with doing it in 10 weeks, in a week. I'll do 42 kilometers in a week. Then I did it in 6 days. Then I did it in 5 days. So I would take that 42 kilometers, until I get to 2 days, and I would leave the 1 day for the day of the
You
marathon.
actually done 2 days, 42.
Well, I did, and then
before the actual race.
Well, then I didn't think. My wish to run the London Marathon. Then there was one greater wish that I had before that. That was to go for Arba'in. And I hadn't factored in that Arba'in was 2 weeks before the London Marathon. Now, the previous 2 years, COVID, nobody was going. Very few people were going. Finally, Iraq was open. I'm like to myself, Arif, you know what? You want to go for Arba'in, peak training. It's like this is the time where you need to be, finishing off your big runs, and then, last week you're resting. You want to go for Arba'in. There are going to be millions of people there. How are you going to accomplish your runs? And I had that desire. I haven't been for 2 years. I used to go every year for Arba'in. We used to go. We used to be there together. And I'm like, now this is coming. I was like, I can't miss this Arba'in. And at the same time, I have this run. What am I going to do? Then I thought to myself, you know what? Your mind starts thinking. I said, there's the walk Najaf to Karbala. 80 kilometers. And I started thinking, I said, what if I ran this? Now, I hadn't run 30 kilometers up to there in one go. And I'm like, I've been training to do 40, and Najaf to Karbala is 80. That is 2 weeks before the London Marathon. But I said to myself, you know what? How can I run a London Marathon before running to my master, Imam Hussain alayhi salam? In me, I started feeling that. I said, I have an opportunity. People walk to Karbala, but I have this opportunity to run to Imam Hussain. I said, maybe, you know what? I can somehow accomplish both. I can run. I can go for Arba'in. I can run from Najaf to Karbala. It'll training for me. It will be something that I can dedicate to Imam. Which sincerely I wanted to do it, and it will help me for it will tell me I've done 80. I can do the 40. But people will say to me, Arif, 21 million people. What if you get COVID? You've practiced, you wanted to do this, this run in London, you get sick, it's out. What if you get blisters, you become ill, you're gonna lose it. And then somebody
Because
says,
Arba'in is it was
just
literally 2 weeks.
Iraq, and somebody tells me, Arif, Iraq is 45 degrees at the moment.
Yeah, it was really hot.
It was really hot in September. We are training in 18 degrees. After about 5 kilometers, because your body's heating up, it becomes hot. How are you going to run 42 kilometers? But in my mind, by then, I'd already made up my mind. I want to go for Arba'in. I want to do both. So, and then I said, you know what, but I don't want to just run. If I'm going to do 80 kilometers, I'll run for Imam. So I want to also run for a great cause. So I said, you know what can I do? And I said to myself, I want to come up with a campaign. And I approach a charity, and I said, I'll run from Najaf to Karbala for a charity, for a good cause. So I approached Hope Appeal and Ahlul Bayt TV, and I said, look, I want to do this thing, and I want to raise money for orphans. I have this campaign running for hope. Imam Hussain being, hope,
yeah.
and the hope for the orphans. He's, it's a hope for mankind. And if orphans, they're looking for hope. And I said, it was a good play on words, and I came up with the campaign 72 orphans in honor of the 72 companions of Imam Hussain. And why? And I thought to myself, and I was thinking about it, these 72 companions, they gave up everything at a drop of a hat. When Imam called for help, they ran to Imam. They may have gone on horse, they may have gone whatever they did, but they went with haste. And for me, it was, Arif, walking is already hard. You've done it.
Yeah, walking is difficult.
Walking is
Yasser knows.
Walking is very difficult. But I said to myself, you know what? Psychologically, now for me, I am also going to emulate that running towards them. Going, running represents going in a hurry, answering the call of Imam Hussain. And then I launched this campaign with the flag. I thought I would take a flag. I would get people to sign the flag. I will get that flag blessed in all the shrines of Karbala. And then I would take that flag and put it on the shrine of Imam Hussain. Those who couldn't go for ziyarah signed it. And, subhanAllah, this is how, there was the build up to running the London.
How long did the run take from Najaf to Karbala?
So
that's 80 kilometers.
That's 80
I'm guessing you took a break as well.
So the backstory was I was trying desperately to get. I was trying desperately to get somebody to run with me. I thought, you know what, if I can find another run in my running group, because I decided last minute, a lot of guys were working, they couldn't book time book time off work to do this, and some of them were like, they were training for the marathon. They felt it might be a risk if we go to Iraq. So I happened to bump into Haider Al-Assam. He's known as Haider Simsim, who owns Simsim Bakery in Kingsbury. I just mentioned to him, I'd met him a year before, as a great guy. We bumped into each other, and I mentioned to him that, you know what, I want to do this run and I'm looking for company. Wallahu al-Azim, in the back of my mind, I always wanted somebody to run. I just felt if I could do it with somebody. Everybody kept saying, I can't do it. Haider immediately, within literally less than 10 seconds, said, Arif, I'll do it with you. I said, subhanAllah. Obviously, Haider was Iraqi. Allah answered that, he spoke Arabic. He was physically fit. Okay, he wasn't training for the marathon.
He's nearly 50 as well.
Yeah, he's nearly 50. We're both nearly, he's older. He's just over 50, very close ages. He was physically fit. So Bismillah, he agreed to do it. We planned to run it in 2 marathons. We'd run 1 marathon, take a break for a few hours, and then run the second marathon. Now, after I completed the London Marathon, I couldn't walk for 3 days. My legs were aching, and some people say it takes 7 days to recover. And then I reflected upon how we completed the run from Najaf to Karbala. We did 1 marathon, we rested 4 or 5 hours, and then we ran the second marathon. And I was thinking to myself, Arif, you nearly died running the London Marathon. You took 5 days to recover. How did you do it 2 back to back in Iraq? And it was only a miracle. The power of Imam Hussain, that love, the presence of being in Iraq. And I'll tell you that trip, 45 degrees heat, the crowd, the dust, the atmosphere. No runner will run in the atmosphere.
Yeah, people that have walked would know how difficult it is. Let them
you
run.
fall ill, you can get, all kinds of things can happen. And I'm telling you, there was miracle after miracle. And I just mentioned a couple. I was like, after 20 kilometers, one of the miracles of running with the flag, by the way, was, I don't know if you've seen the movie Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
One
of my favorite movies.
Yeah. So when he was running, so many people would start running with him. Like, who's the random guy running? Like, wallah, all the Iraqi Shabab, when we had the flag, we ran with the flag in all of them would see us running. They had many people carry flags, right? They saw us running, they would start running. Some of them were barefoot, some of them, with big backpacks, some of them with much bigger flags. Wallah, we saw huge flags. They saw us, they would join us running. And then some of them would tease us in Arabic. They'd be like, why you old men? You old men are running too slow. They would run way ahead of us. And then we're like, okay, fine. And then, a kilometer or two, we see them sitting down on the side of the road, out of breath. They're like, what's happened to you? Oh, what, we're tired, we're resting. And we'd go past them. And so a lot of Iraqi youth would see us on the way running. But there was these two guys, and this is where I say there was a miracle. We were getting tired. It was hot. We were running at night, by the way, so the temperatures were not 45 in the daytime, but still over around 31 to 35.
Yeah,
it's still very hot. We're running at night. At about 21 kilometers first is a guy called Sajjad, young Shabab, 18-year-old. He starts joining us. Asks us why we're running, speaking Arabic, a bit of English. And then another guy, another youth, a few kilometers there by the name of Zainul Abidin. They accompanied us, me and Haider, as we were running. Now, I wanted to get to 42 because that was a marathon. I know my Strava, which is what records your runs, would record, Arif, you've done your first marathon. Haider is telling me, Arif, I can't run, I'm exhausted. At 40 kilometers, he was like, I want to stop here. So I said, fine, you know what? We've done 40, that's half of 80. So the Shabab, these two Shabab that were with us says, look, come with us. We'll find you a mokib. We'll get you some food. The guys don't know us. They've just been running with us. We get to the mokib. They find us a mokib. They get us a couple of mattresses. They bring us food. Wallahu al-azim, these two boys started massaging. We've got this on video. Started massaging mine and Haider's legs. They're just random kids, walking themselves from Najaf to Karbala. They must be exhausted. They've also done 40 and they've run part of the way with us. Haider gets one guy massaging, lying down. I am getting massaged. These kids massage us for maybe 40 minutes and then we sleep. When we wake up, and these kids didn't know each other, but they became best friends, by the way, in all of this. They're like, we saw them talking. Sajjad and Zainul Abidin.
The names as well.
They're matching. So we wake up again. They bring us food, because we wanted to continue our run. They start massaging us again. They massage us, they get us ready. It's just before Maghrib. So we get there just before Zohar, and then just before Maghrib, we get ready. We say, now, hadn't we got, if it wasn't for those massages, wallah, after running the London Marathon and knowing how my legs were aching, there was no way Haider and I would have woken up. We would have slept for 24 hours. But if it wasn't for these two brothers, they got us up, they massaged us again, they brought us food. Then we were going out, we all got ready with our bags and everything. We started walking initially because we were in the busy area. We wanted to go to the main road. It was getting Maghrib time. Everybody stops to pray. The guys are saying to us, look, guys, it was getting a bit dark. Maghrib is just before it gets complete dark. And one of the brothers was saying, we have to pray before it gets dark. And we were like, all the mokibs are full. If we have to go and do wudu again, take everything off, let us wait till it calms down. It gets dark. He goes, no, let us pray our salah before it gets dark. I said, subhanallah, all right, we've had fine. We found a mokib that had some space. We went, we did wudu, took everything off again. Because it's a process. Take off your shoes, your socks, your backpack, the flag, put it all away. We just put it back on. We prayed with these kids. We had one of the best prayers I've prayed anywhere. We put our stuff back on. Me and Haider, we were ready to start running. The two guys have vanished. Wallahu al-azim, they're gone. It's like they came for they did what they needed to do for us, and they were gone. Haider and I like, what just happened? Who were these guys? Who sent them? And we carried on running. And, there's just miracles like this, when you, because, I know I've done the London Marathon. I know the professionals, they run every day. They can do it. But, when you're not a professional runner, when it's your first marathon and you've not even done it before, it's exhausting and tiring. And then on the way, remember, I was hungry. Haider would eat a lot of the food because Iraqi. So I was running, it was getting nighttime, and I was exhausted and I hadn't eaten. Haider said, Arif, you need to eat. When you're walking, it gets really busy. So the place where you're walking, there's too many people to run. We tried to run there, where all the food and the water is. You keep bumping into people. So we moved to the road where the cars are. There are much less people. But there are no mokibs there. Very few people giving food. But we can run because we said we were going to run. So we were running there. Hey, I'm exhausted. I'm finished. Haider said, you haven't eaten, Arif. Eat something. I said, where's the food? He goes, what do you want to eat, Arif? I said, I want to eat biryani. I don't know why biryani came in my mind, because I didn't want all these falafels with salad. I was just feeling a little bit uneasy. All of a sudden, 2 minutes later, wallahi, a kid from the Mokib comes running with a tray. I mean, there was a few people, who walk on the road, and us running. The guy's running with the tray, runs in front of us, and he's telling us, you have some of this tabarruk. And I'm like, you know what? I said, okay, let me open it. I was hungry. Haider said, see what's inside. Wallah, I open it. Piping hot biryani. Iraqi made, I've never tasted biryani so good like I tasted. Now, obviously, if you're hungry, they say. But wallah, I'm telling you, this Iraqi biryani. It was an Iraqi guy came running. And I was like, just 2 minutes earlier, I was asking, I want biryani. I got biryani. That biryani gave me the energy to get to 1086. We got to, 1086 is where a lot of people gather. Imran Mamdani and a few other guys were there. When we got there, we were welcome. Everybody was asking us about a run. I was posting videos. They all knew I was running. We took another 2 to 3 hour nap there. And then we finished headed towards Karbala. Obviously, the last bit is very busy. So then you come off the main. There's no more main road. Yeah, and then once you start going, the last 10, there's too many people. We had to brisk walk. We couldn't. But still, that walk after doing all of that was exhausting. But there's so many small little miracles. Haider met a cousin from Iraq that he had never met before. Happened to be his relative, some distant relative of his, that started talking to me just because of the flag. We're asking who we're from, and then find out he's from the same village as Haider in Iraq, and it turns out to be a distant cousin. So many interesting incidents that we had on this trip. But obviously we were exhausted. I had blisters. And when we came back from Iraq, I was like, we were all tired, and I knew I had like 6 blisters on my leg. And, the story only gets interesting because, we didn't know how we were going to compete. This is only through the miracles of Ahl al-Bayt and Allah that we did it. When I came back, I had, before the marathon, I was like, Arif, how are you going to run the marathon? Everybody's expecting you to run. You made a commitment. You made a commitment. You have blisters. You can barely walk. So after about a week of resting, I said, you know what? My blisters are semi-healed. Let me try and run. I came out of my house. I put my trainers. After 200 meters, I twisted my ankle because my body was still tired. It was as my body was telling me, you can't run. And my feet were like aching. So I was like, okay, you know what? I couldn't walk. 2 days, I couldn't walk. I called my friends. I said, you know what? I've done the Najaf to Karbala run. This is what happened to me. Now I may have to pull out. I can't even put weight on my leg. They're literally limping. Let alone run. What happens? My wife is telling me, Arif, you know what? You've done enough. Nobody's going to blame you. You ran from Najaf to Karbala. You raised money for 72 orphans. You've done so much. Be happy. You couldn't take it easy. In the back of my mind, I was saying, you know what? There is no way that Imam would get me to run Najaf to Karbala. Raise money for orphans and then let me down. When I pledged, by the way, I pledged, I took the flag, we ran with it, we put it on the shrine of Imam Hussain. Then I took another flag from Karbala and I said, I'm going to run that flag. Marathon. And I said, there's no way Imam is going to say, Wallah, this guy's done all of this. Now he wanted to do, I'm going to let him down. But I couldn't walk. A friend of mine recommended to me this great physio. He said he fixed up rugby players, England rugby players, they get battered in rugby. He goes, week on week, he makes them, fit too. I went to see him. He goes, look, Arif, you know what? I'm good at my job. He goes, I fix rugby players up. but you're nearly 50 years old. The rugby players are in their 25s and their 30s and younger. I know their bodies. I've never seen you. I don't know how your body responds. Because I am good, I can take your money. Well, I'm telling you, you've got 1% chance of running the London Marathon, because I couldn't put any weight, but I'll see what I can do. Went to see him every day for an hour. 2 days before the London Marathon, I'm like, you know what? It's very close now. I need to know, can I run? I haven't tried running. I can barely walk on my leg.
So literally, you haven't run before the actual
No,
marathon?
I haven't run before. I don't know if I can even run. I told him, strap up my leg now. Like, he goes, I can strap it up really tight, go on a treadmill, see how you feel. He says, although, 42 kilometers, he told me run 2 kilometers, and 2 kilometers is a huge difference, but try. So he strapped up my leg, bandaged it really tight. I went on the treadmill that night at the gym. I ran on it. Wallah, it felt okay. No pain. In fact, if anything, the strapping was so tight, I felt restricted in my movement. I went to see him the next morning. I told him to cut off the strapping. Or in fact, I took it off the night before because I felt uncomfortable. He examined my ankle. He said, this is looking better. But, there's a big difference. There's a sea, an ocean between 2 and 42.
42.
So I said, look, I want to do it. He goes, how do you feel? I said, look, you know what? I believe in miracles because I've seen them happen. I've just done something I never believed I can do in Iraq. And I don't believe that my God and my Imam are going to let me down. So he said, okay, you know what? And let me work on your ankle. This after seeing me, go and run 3 kilometers on the road, because the treadmill and the road, the pavement is much harder. It's different.
Treadmill,
you feel treadmill, and it's softer because whereas on the road you feel the impact, the pounding of on your ankle. So I said, fine. I went, I came home, and then I thought, you know what? I'm not going to just run on it, because I made a commitment to run with the flag. So I'm going to put that 5 kilos with the flag, and I'm going to try and see what it feels like running. So I took the beautiful flag out. I put it, I came out my house. Soon as I came onto the Gordon Avenue in Stanmore, I start running. All these Shia driving by, Allah, they seeing the flag of Imam Hussain. They're opening their windows, they take out their phones, and they start videoing me and crying, Allah baik ya Hussain, brother, what are you doing? Why are you running with the flag of Imam Hussain? I'm like, tomorrow is the London Marathon. I didn't tell him about my ankle or anything, but I'm just practicing to see what it feels like. I think at least 15 or 20 cars stopped and took video, and that gave me a motivation. I was meant to run 3, I ended up doing 5 kilometers. And I went home, and I thought, you know what, let me see the ankle now. Yeah, maybe it'll swell up after a few hours. I don't know. I waited 3 or 4 hours. Well, nothing. There was no swelling. In my mind, I was feeling, when you have that feeling like,
you're not sure.
Midnight was the deadline. It was a cutoff. The London Marathon allow you to defer. But so many people get injured in the training up to the marathon because they're training so hard. It's easy to twist your ankle or twist your knee. And they have a chance to defer to next year. And I would have, because if I hadn't deferred it, I would have lost my place. And, you had to raise money for charity. So I had up to midnight. But 10 o'clock, I announced to the group, guys, I'm back on, I'm running, that day. And so many miracles happened then. As soon as I announced, somebody told me, Arif, you know what? It was meant to be raining on the day of the marathon and cold. Now it's sunny. The weather's improved. Everybody's, when somebody pulls out and then, everybody else feels disheartened. Somebody's dropped out. The rest of them were feeling a little bit like Arif's not running with us. He's come from Karbala. No, not from that point of view. But, when you're a group, and then one guy can't come with the group, everybody feels a little bit, a bit disheartened. And then he gave everybody motivation, and, the rest is history. Boom, I turned up on the London Marathon with the flag, and Ahlul Bayt TV, they were making a documentary of this as well. They were filming the incident between Najaf and Karbala, and also the run, and, all the way up to the marathon, and people were asking about why you're running, what's the flag representing, and it was just a brilliant atmosphere, and I just felt privileged and honored and humbled to be Alamdar of Imam Hussain.
We'll look out for that. I've known you for a long time. I think since 2009.
Yeah,
we first met, and then you were part of the Ahlul Bayt TV team. Believe it or not, I think you are the first person to speak in front of the shrine of Imam Hussain live on TV in English, which is a huge step. I think before that there wasn't someone doing that, and then you've done that for a few years, where you were representing Ahlul Bayt TV going to Karbala during Ashura,
Yeah.
the 10 days, I think Ali Fadil, Sister Rebecca.
Yes, that's right.
And that was amazing. And then obviously we moved from South London
Yeah.
and we came to your building. We
Yeah.
shared it for a
Yeah.
few months well, until we literally told you to leave. So our home was there. Till now, I think
Yeah. They're still there. Yeah.
the channel are still in the office, so they've been there close to 10 years, if not
Over 10 years.
over 10 years. You've got this passion, even though you're not on a wage from Ahl
Yeah.
Bayt TV, so you're not like on the board or on any official paper, but you've got a passion for this spread of the message of the Ahl Bayt, where and promoting the message of Imam Al Hussain alayhi salam, and the whole running is your way. But where do you think this passion comes from?
Well, I think for many people who are lucky to be born Shia, I think the best gift that our mothers and our fathers gave us is this love for the Ahl al-Bayt. I know my mother, when I was young, many boys sometimes, or many babies, they're taken to the mosque as the little Aliun Askar. And she said that once in Muharram Majlis, you're the little Ali Askar child. So those memories of Muharram, the Azadari, for many Shia, they are the earliest memories and the most powerful memories that we have in the mosque. But I also remember we grew up in West Africa. There are very few Khoja Shia families in Zaire, as it was known. Today is the Democratic Republic of Congo. My parents had gone there in the late 1970s, and if I remember what my mom told me, because when I was about 8 or 9, we were the first family to go. My mother took me and my siblings, 3 of us, and her parents, the first family to go from Zaire for the ziyarah of Imam Hussain alayhi salam from Congo at the time. She had gone the year alone from Zaire. She had gone the year before alone, my mom, and when she came back, she loved it so much that she said, "I want to take you kids." And we were young kids at the time. We would attend Muharram Majalis, but we had never been for the ziyarah. And this was during the Iran-Iraq war now. So you can imagine there's a conflict going on. We are in West Africa. Now, today transport is easy, but when you're back in the 1980s, to get from Kinshasa, the capital city of Zaire, to Najaf or Baghdad, man, there was not 1 or 2 flights. You're talking about 5. We had to fly to Nairobi, from Nairobi to Addis Ababa, from Addis Ababa, I think, to Rome, from Rome to Damascus, from Damascus to Baghdad. Or some long,
Long route to get there.
route. Like, for us kids, it was an adventure. We were in planes. We were traveling. Something like that. And then there's, these days we go a week ziyarah. My mom had, I think it was like 6 weeks at the time. We were young kids. We did Iraq, Iran, Sham, all included. It was 4 to 6 weeks. So it was a long ziyarah. And I just remember, that memory of going for ziyarah as a kid, seeing the shrine, seeing people crying for Imam al-Hussain, those moments that you listen to at the mosque, just became real for me. And what I was doing as a kid in the shrines, Allah, today I laugh about it. But there was something in that. When the ladies, especially the women, when they would do their Hajj, when they finish their ziyarah back in the day, I don't know if, I don't see, because it's so busy now, the shrines, they don't do this. But back in the day, they would buy a bag of sweets. And they just throw the bag of sweets on the floor for the kids that were sitting with the mothers, and all the kids would run. And so now you got my idea of how young I was. Run, and wallah, I used to compete with the Iranian kids who can get most of the sweets. I used to do all the shrines. That was the thing I used to love the most. To get that tabarruk. When we were leaving Iraq, I had 2 sacks full of sweets. Well, that must have been 50 kilos of sweets. Because that we used to sit in the shrine, 50 kilos. My mom was like,
What is this?
there is
Give it
no way that you're going to be able to take, we don't have the weight allowance. How, I was like, yeah, look at me. I've collected too. I'm the best at collecting these sweets. I was looking forward to going back home. And so she, she was going to break my heart now. So she said, I'm going to take a few handful tabarruk, keep them in our bag, but you have to go back to the shrine. I remember I was like disappointed, give them back. Or, I've been working hard. That was the, whatever dua I would do with it. But the rest of the time, I was occupied collecting these sweets in the shrine. But I didn't realize that memory, obviously the people who are giving it with their wishes and goodwill. It's a gift from Imam in some ways. And I didn't really appreciate it at that time. And I'm thinking back now that all those little sweets that I was picking up, it was depositing something inside me, and even if it went away and it didn't stay with me, some love of Imam is deposited. It was a deposit inside me. And, you talked about being the first one to go to Iraq. It was 2009 we're talking about. Ahlul Bayt TV was just launched. Iraq was still not 100% safe. There were still bombs going off in Karbala. Yeah. But for me, when Amir Taqi, who was the channel, he said, Arif, look, you've started speaking, come with us. And they had no plan really. It was like a wish. Let's start broadcasting for him. I didn't realize when I said yes, I thought it had all been planned out. I didn't realize we have to plan it and make it ourselves. And the guy, he said we went there. We didn't have a hotel. It felt like there was no water on the plane. It felt like a whole Muharram trip. All kinds of things were happening. But I remember
the call when I got there.
The call when I went, and then when we got there, everything started falling in place. We realized we didn't have any planning, but the people in charge of the shrine were like welcomed us with open arms. They said
it's something new.
Something new. They said, look, nobody has ever done English. They told me, they said, you are the first. I stood in front of the Qatlegah. And the guy comes to say to me, he says, brother, you are the first person to recite the Masiba of Imam Hussain alayhi salam in front of the Qatlegah. And for me also, it was a huge challenge. I had never done camera work before. I had no training as a presenter. It was very much being a trailblazer. Ahlul Bayt has called you, and it felt like an invitation. Step up and do your best. Be humble. You've been given an opportunity. Well, there's so many doors open. And I said to myself, in my life, and I said, you got to walk the talk. And in this case, we're talking about running or run the talk. As a speaker that, we can deliver the majlis on the mimbar. You have an audience. They've come to listen to you about Imam al-Hussain and the Ahlul Bayt. But once you step off the mimbar, then, the opportunities of delivering the message, of representing the message, of living the message a lot harder. Now, you do this with the Progeny podcast. It's your way of finding another avenue to bring, the love of the Ahlul Bayt, into people's lives. And for me, as a speaker and having that love, I wanted to transcend that message, look at the message of Karbala, the lives of the Ahlul Bayt, and say, how can I bring it into my work, into as an entrepreneur? How can I bring it into what I enjoy, my running, my sports?
How can you bring your passion for promoting the message of Imam Hussain because I know you also as an entrepreneur, you've opened different businesses around the world, different countries, and you're quite a successful entrepreneur. Inshallah. But how do you just said, you bring them together. How can you bring your work with your...
I'll start with an example that will lead on to that. When I was younger, maybe around 17, I was head of football at Stanmore Jaffrey's. I was organizing the football practices for Amar Naqshwani. So many of these guys played in my team at that time, and I was their coach. And I remember, at that time, A'udhu Billah, there was the Baywatch was something that was being shown on TV. Now, it was a huge, I don't know if it's still there or people know about, but it was a television series that was filmed on the beaches of Los Angeles or somewhere in America. And obviously what they were showing was un-Islamic, but appealing. They would show it at times where it was appealing to all the youth. And in my back of my mind, I knew obviously people wanted, there was a temptation to watch it for a lot of the guys. And so I would start organizing football practice
That time.
exactly at the time of Baywatch. And in those, because these days, obviously, everyone's smart. You got Netflix, you record it, watch whatever. But at that time was terrestrial TV. There was no way of recording any program. If you miss it, you miss it. And in the back of my mind, I would say to myself, you know what? I'm going to, because people love football as well. And I was like, in the back of their mind, they were thinking, Baywatch, football, they had to judge, what do I love more? And alhamdulillah, at least they love for football.
Yeah.
And it pulled them about. And so, it got me thinking about how you can organize things in life, your life, to try and make it more Islamic, to live in the way of the Ahl al-Bayt. And entrepreneurialism, I think, you asked the question about, I feel is the closest lifestyle or job that you can do to what Islam prescribes. And why do I say this? Because if you're working for somebody or if you're in a job, you are a believer, you're practicing, whatever, but somebody at the end of the day is paying your salary, every month, you know what you're getting. But when you're an entrepreneur, you have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you're taking a risk with your time. There's nobody guaranteeing your risk other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the end of the day, you have to pay bills, you have to pay salaries, you have commitments to meet, you have to, provide an income for yourself. And as a believer, and you're always remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have tawakkul. So that's the first reason. But the second reason also is the best role models in our faith, our beloved Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Before he declared his prophethood, he was an entrepreneur, as we all know. He was a trader.
Yeah.
He would and he before he married Bibi Khadija alayhi salam, she was a trader. She was the richest, the best trader. And so these two entrepreneurs, obviously he started working for before they got married, but they were the most successful entrepreneurs and traders in Arabia at that time. And so myself, I was thinking, you know what? We say the Prophet is Uswatul Hasana, the best of role models.
Yeah. Definitely.
And from a young age, I grew up in a community in West Africa where they were all business people and entrepreneurs. So I knew when I was 13 years old, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Not at that time because it was the way of the Ahl al-Bayt or the Prophet, but because I was in that community. Yeah. When I was older and you attend the milad of the Prophet or the wafat, and they give the history and they talk about how he was a trader. And I said, subhanallah, and they present him as a role model. I said, well, it fits in with the lifestyle, what I like doing. So, I saw it very much as as a way that is close to Islam, as a lifestyle that is close to Islam. But also, today, modern business people, it's all up, with social media out there, people are trying to build their online brand on Instagram and Facebook. And then I think about it, I said, subhanallah, 1400 years ago and until today, the strongest brand is the brand of our beloved Prophet. Nobody's brand is as strong as it. Nobody has as many followers as our beloved Prophet has. And over the years, it's billions. But if those who are alive today, still in greater number than anybody else has. And not only, not just fake followers. I'm talking about the real followers who would do anything out of the love of the Prophet. And, if people ask, what were the qualities that made him the most successful trader at that time, that were the most useful in his religion and represent his brand today? You ask any Muslim, whether it's Shia, Sunni, they'll say, because he was al-Sadiq and al-Amin, the truthful and the trustworthy. And if you think about it in business,
that's the two main things you look for.
When you want to do business with somebody, what are the qualities you look for? Is he truthful?
And is he trustworthy?
If you have is he selling what he's describing, what he's selling you as truthful? Or is there some, sometimes you go and buy a car, you tell the guy, buy a second-hand car, he'll tell you, there's nothing wrong with the car. The mileage is only 2,000 miles, when wallah, it's done 50,000 miles. He's clocked it. He's got so many. But those and in today's world, when everything is so competitive. Online, everybody's selling the same product, right? So now when I want to decide when I'm going to buy from you, Brother Mustafa, or 4 other people, how do I judge who am I going to buy for? You all have the same price.
Mm.
What did it come down? Then you think about who is the most truthful and trustworthy. And if you talk about companies, obviously they have review systems, online reviews, where you establish people's authenticity and customer service. So it was very entrepreneurialism is very close to, the lifestyle in Islamic lifestyle. I believe the way the Holy Prophet lived his life, and so it's always been an inspiration for me.
Alhamdulillah, I'm sure a lot of people will be inspired
Inshallah,
with
inshallah.
your work, inshallah. And I thank you for making time to share this story with us.
Jazakallah.